Hey everybody, welcome back. Sorry we're a minute or two late here. It's 8:01. Reed Fisher will join us momentarily. I'm Blake Bolden, Franklin P. Johnson, director of the Drake Relays. I joined a little bit late here because my dogs were going wild in the other room. So hopefully they'll behave while we welcome a Drake legend, Reed Fisher. Just getting started here. This will be our third and final Instagram Live Q&A today. We started the day with Jenny Simpson at 5 o'clock Central. Terrific, uplifting conversation. We then continued at 7 with truly one of the best 200-meter runners in the history of the world, Wallace Spearman. And then now we'll be joined momentarily by the three-time reigning champion of the men's 5,000 at the Drake Relays. And truly, this is almost exact moment at 8 o'clock here that Reed Fisher would be running the 5,000 at the Drake Relays and win his fourth consecutive Drake Relays title in the event. He joins us live now, and as he's joining us, hey Reed, welcome.
Hey, Blake.
Reed, what's up, man? How are you?
Doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Like that shirt.
I know. I was gonna say you're rocking the quarantine beard too. Looks good on you.
I don't know if that's true, but I do appreciate yours. You're at least matches your hair fashion. Mine looks more like I fell out of a homeless shelter or under a bridge or something. You know, I'm working on it though. But yeah, good to see you.
You're too hard on yourself.
How are you? What's going on in your world?
I'm good. Life isn't, all too altered here. It's been nice. We kind of just settled into this rhythm of training in house groups as a team instead of the full group, and then just been working remotely instead of in the office. So, yeah, it's been nice.
Well, I've already seen. We actually had a bunch of people join. You got a big following apparently, or there's a lot of enthusiasm maybe here tonight for distance night, which at least in some small circles, it's a little bit become Reed Fisher night in a sense. I know Brogan Austin are terrific 10,000 meters. Actually, I don't know if you know this. His 10K was the fastest 10K at Drake Relays since 1985 when Yobez Ondieki ran that. I don't know if you know who Yobez Ondieki is.
Nope.
First man to ever run under 27 minutes for 10K. And he won the Drake.
So Brogan's in good company.
Yeah, no joke. An understatement. So yeah, Reed Fisher, three-time reigning champion of the men's 5,000. And as I was introducing you and welcoming you here now, just a couple minutes after 8 p.m., this would literally be right when you're on the track. The drum, Cicerettes. Don't know how the weather is for you in Boulder right now, but here right now, the weather we've got in Des Moines is the kind of weather that people fly to California for.
I'm sure it's perfect.
Mount Sac, Stanford, all those iconic distance events. We have that weather here in Des Moines. The only thing we're missing is you, Reed. But it's good. So I always ask this question on all these interviews. Tell me one of your favorite. Do you have a Drake Relays memory that really stands out to you?
Oh man. For sure the most, the one that stands out the most would be the year that I won my senior year at Drake. That was the first time that I won the 5K. I'd spent a year kind of building up from a narrow miss as a junior and missed the school record and got out kicked, and then was able to get redemption senior year when it mattered most. So that one stands out for sure. But my freshman year was a really cool experience. That was the year after Brogan had won his first time. So all of a sudden, I came in as a wide-eyed freshman and I had heard about this senior the year before me who'd won and then ran a really fast 5K, and all of a sudden I was competing in that same meet. So that was my first track 10K as a collegiate athlete, and that was a really cool moment to be a part of that and just experience the atmosphere of the Drake Relays for the first time was something I'll never forget. Yeah,
well, I've got a lot of questions for you, but none as compelling as the one that I've just pinned there. Do you see that question, Reed?
I do.
No. Reed, do you shave your legs?
I do not shave my legs. I just have very blonde leg hair.
Okay, I've got to ask you this. Will you please not show your legs to me again in this interview?
Yeah, fair enough. Well, I'm going to have to show you this one.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. I'll take it. On Drake Relays Night, one of our most successful recent Drake track and field alums, alongside Brogan Austin and several others. But one of our standouts got to show off that ink. That's pretty good.
That's right.
Well, you've had really not only a storied career in Drake Stadium as a Bulldog to wrap up, setting a school record, breaking Boyd Mansell's 40-year-old school record in a really a moment that I'll always remember. Made the 10 o'clock news. Boyd was on the track, literally trackside. KCCI, the local CBS affiliate, there to do live interviews with you both. Really special times for Drake Relays and for you. And then you've had a breakthrough performance twice, I would say, in the U.S. Championships in Des Moines. The first year out of college there in 2018, returned, as your freshman or your senior year, you finished ninth at the NCAA meet, returned a year later to finish fourth at the U.S. Championships and qualify for your first U.S. team. And then a year later, in 2019, you came back to the Blue Oval again, another amazing performance in a hot night in a championship race. It was rainy, but you ran a lifetime best in a championship race for another amazing performance. So not just, you talked about your relays performances, but talk about what it was to come back as a professional and have those amazing breakthrough performances and really assert yourself on the international stage.
Yeah, I mean, I think, after training on that track for 4 years, like it's always felt like a second home for me for sure, as I'm sure it does for you as well. So yeah, I think, there's a certain level of home team support and that home field advantage that comes into play for me anytime I race in Des Moines. So, collegiate or professional, it's always been something that I really look forward to and a moment that I cherish to get to step on that track. So, coming back as a pro, I didn't really have all that lofty of expectations for either of those races. Ironically, it was more just, let's put a nice bow on the season and just compete as best as I can. And I think, between the beautiful Des Moines track and the beautiful people of Des Moines, all of a sudden I found myself in position to do something really, really special both times I've raced there at the U.S. Championships. So, it's a huge credit to the people who come out, yourself, for promoting those events, the U.S. Championships, and doing all the organization that you do to make it run smoothly and give people the opportunity to run quick on that track. So it's always something I love, and I'll always come back any opportunity I can.
Yeah, well, and clearly, as evidenced by the number of people in this chat and the amount of likes and number of people saying, "Hey, Reed, oh Reed," here in the comments.
Ryan Flynn, a fellow Drake alum. Hey, buddy.
This is what I'm saying. There are real circles that Thursday night, at least in the short term, Thursday night at the Drake Relays, it is the distance carnival, but a little bit of it is Reed Fisher night. Now, I don't take anything away from another mutual friend of ours, national champion in the marathon, tremendous career, Brogan Austin. We all love Brogan, and it's still Brogan night too. But that 10,000 last year was great. But look at this fan base. Look at this love you're getting. So really, let me ask you this. I know you went from like literally a walk-on at Drake. Came down to Des Moines from Minnesota, stepped onto the team. Great relationship with our friend Dan Hosteger. He did a great job of nurturing you along the way. But why'd you come to Des Moines? Why'd you pick Drake?
Yeah, I think a lot of people, when they're on their college search, kind of put the things they're looking for into these buckets and then give themselves like some priorities. So for me, I knew I wanted something within driving distance of home that was like a high-level academic school that I could feel that I was like a part of something at. And Drake was the right size, the right distance from home. Like it ticked all of my boxes and it hit all those buckets. But more than anything, it felt like home the second I stepped on campus. I think you just get a gut feeling about those kind of things. And that's one of the big reasons I'm out here in Boulder now. And it was one of the biggest reasons that I came to Drake. Like I walked away from that unofficial visit just feeling like I'd found my next home. And, the guys on the team, including, Ryan, who's in the chat now, and Connor Wells, who's another Des Moines legend, and then Brogan, like all those guys just made me feel super welcome on my visit. So, aside from the team, just felt like the right place for me on my visit. I felt like the professors and the admin people that I talked to on the visit were really nurturing and caring and wanted me to succeed as a person, not just a student or an athlete. So felt like home and kind of took a swing and it worked out in a big way for me.
Yeah, well, I got to ask you this, not to put you on the spot.
relative to when you were a college senior at Drake and you were still wearing the blue with the Bulldogs.
Yep.
But when you've been back and you've won the Drake Relays twice in a row, did you ever go up to Peggy's tent?
Yes, I would partake in the Peggy's tent afterwards. I think everybody does. It's a rite of passage for sure.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I will. I have not. I've not had the opportunity, but I was actually did a really great interview with Mark Kostick, who is the 10th director of the relays prior to Brian Brown.
Yep.
He shared the time that he and the then athletic director at Drake went up to Peggy's tent and had a pretty good story. I have not yet made the venture up there during relays week, but maybe down the road, maybe we'll head up there together some Thursday night.
There we go. That sounds good.
Yeah,
we'll get ourselves a couple of cups for commemorative sake.
Bask in the celebrity that is Reed Fisher.
Something like that.
Yeah. So listen, I know you have certainly there's. Oh, well, first off, I want to encourage all Reed's fans here, as long as the question isn't related to his personal hygiene, like the one we've already had. Any questions you have, Reed's an open book, very generous in his willingness to share his knowledge, not only about his personal experiences, but about what led to his breakthroughs. But while we encourage some questions here, I want to ask you a couple more questions. First,
sure.
I know this, not to get too personal or too sentimental about it, but your senior year is when we first got to know each other and watched you progress, certainly from the day that you set that record. This one we're going to pin. Hold on, I got to pin this question. And then we'll come back. Man, the questions are fast and furious. So we'll come back to these questions, but I got to finish this one. When it's February of your senior year, did you know then that you would, 18 months later, be running at the highest level of sport, finishing fourth at a U.S. championship, and then going on to represent our country internationally?
Not a chance. Yeah. I mean, at that point in my career, I didn't even know I was running pro. Up until probably the last month of my NCAA career, I was still applying for all the full-time jobs and just committing to either stay in Des Moines or move back up to Minneapolis and just work full-time in a career and make that my living, and then just kind of run on the side and do it if and when I could, sort of thing. So, yeah, it was a very unexpected surprise, but very pleasant one nonetheless.
Right. Well, and then a follow-up question to that, and then we're not going to let you get off the hook without answering. Excellent. So I've got a follow-up to that. So when you went through the process of going from Drake, ninth at the NCAA championship, certainly a school record holder, at Drake Relays champion, all of those things that you accomplished, Missouri Valley Conference champion, terrific senior year. How did you go through the decision process to land at 10-man?
Yeah, I was fortunate that I had a few teams reach out to me after that performance at NCAAs that you mentioned. And along the same timeline, I was kind of getting in touch with some people out here in Boulder, and this was a place I'd trained before, so knew I could be happy, healthy, and successful here. And got in touch with Drew through a mutual friend, Drew Hunter. And then he and I kind of decided that this was the avenue we wanted to pursue above all else, and took a leap of faith on each other. And then Sam Parsons moved out here shortly hereafter, who's sitting downstairs right now, and he's in the chat as well. So yeah, all three of us kind of decided that we wanted to create something for ourselves and build something that we felt was maybe missing in the sport, and give ourselves and some people behind us an opportunity to be a part of something new and something exciting. So that was kind of the thought process. At the time, it was really, I knew I wanted to be in Boulder, knew that this was a place I really enjoyed being, and knew that I could be, this place just brings the best out of everybody who's a runner. So it was a good place for me to call home.
Yeah, well, it's working out well for you. I'll say that. So
yeah, it's gone so well.
We got to bring those guys with you to Drake, to the Blue Oval or the Grand Blue Mile, and we'll all hit Peggy's tent together one of these days.
There we go.
But before we turn our attention to these, really, these are the best questions we've seen. This is our second program live. I can't wait to get to these questions, but I've got one more solemn question, and we'll have some more fun.
Sure.
So knowing what you went through, what you just described, the breakthrough senior season, how you went from a guy at the Missouri Valley Conference level, thinking about competing nationally, not even imagining internationally, but just thinking about that, to then where you are now. Certainly haven't competed at the Olympic trials, but more than that, at the NACAC games, fourth in the U.S., like some of these incredible successes at major championships. What advice could you give to those seniors who just lost their spring outdoor season? That imagine if this had happened to you in 2017, where you know where you were in February, and you know what happened in March, April, May, and June. When Dan Hostegger and I were with you in Eugene and that big breakthrough, and then you just took off like a rocket ship. What advice can you give to those kids that aren't going to have that same opportunity?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is understanding that it's like very fair to be upset by that loss. Like I know, like you just said, if I'd had that season cut short, that would have been a huge loss for me and would have been really hard to deal with. But the good news, and I hope that I'm a bit of an example of this, is like it doesn't matter to a certain extent what you've done in the NCAA. It matters the commitment that you have to yourself and to the goals that you've set for yourself. So, I came out of Drake thinking I'd had a great career, but knowing that I wanted and expected more out of myself after college. So, even if there wasn't a big contract sitting on the table for me to sign and make running a priority, I knew that this was a sport that it doesn't take a whole lot for you to get better at it. You need a good pair of shoes and maybe a couple good buddies to go with. So, that was just a good reminder for myself that I was doing this because it was something that I loved, and I was doing it because I wanted to get better, not because there was a big shiny deal involved or, whatever the case may be. So I would just remind them that, if you keep putting the work in and you trust in yourself, like good things are bound to happen. And when those things happen, hopefully the right eyes are on you at the right time. And that good news turns into a shiny shoe deal nonetheless, like it has for me. So, yeah, I think just patience and understanding that you're not alone and everybody else is dealing with the same loss. So leaning into your family and your friends who are struggling too and relying on them to kind of build you up in a weird time is super important.
Yeah, great advice. Yeah, thanks for letting me ask a serious question.
For sure.
What your fans here want. Who's your favorite roommate? Let's get.
Yeah, so that's Ryan asking. He was one of my 3 college roommates. Since it looks like he's the only one in this live stream right now, I would have to say Ryan Ross was my favorite college roommate. But George and Calvin are incredible guys too.
Let's see. Xavier wants to know who's your favorite roommate at Reed's Castle. Is that the same place? Same answer?
He's asking which room. Those guys moved into. Yeah, they moved into our house after we left. So I would have to say my old room, which I think was the one that Xavier is living in now. So the X-Man is keeping up my old stomping grounds for me.
Yeah. So I've just there's a couple more questions I do want to get to here. Who's your rival in the MVC? Talk about. So I competed in the Missouri Valley Conference, and what I always liked about the Missouri Valley Conference, there are always really good runners, and there were few. But then, and for me, it was Christian Goy. He was not a rival. He destroyed me. He was way.
Yeah.
But he was an NCAA runner-up at the indoor. But so it gave me somebody to shoot for. And then there were competitors. There were rivals. There were friends. But no matter what happened is once we got to the NCAA meet, it became whatever school they were from, I cheered for them. Because like Missouri Valley Conference against the other 20 or 30 conferences,
Oh, yeah.
Who would you have considered your rivals in the MVC?
Like you said, I think John Mascari was a huge guy that was more of an aspirational role. Him and Brogan, when I came in as a freshman, sophomore, the guys were top of the class, making NCAA meets and competing. John was, I think, top 10 at an NCAA cross meet when I was a sophomore. So he was really somebody, he and Brogan were people that I looked to kind of understand that just because I was in a mid-major conference didn't mean that I had to have mid-major goals. So those guys were huge. Yeah, like you said, more mentors and inspirations to me than rivals. From a rival standpoint, Michael Ward from Bradley, he and I would always be trading off wins and things like that. My senior year, he and I went to battle over the cross-country course at conference, and we were stride for stride up until the last K where I barely pulled away from him. So Michael's always been a great competitor, and he's still running as well, so it's fun to see that. Like you said, David Timlin, he was more of a 1,500-meter guy. He trains with District Track Club out in DC right now. But that dude could kick anybody down. So even if I was in a 5K at the conference meet, I was worried about David Timwin. And he was also an NCAA qualifier kind of guy. So when we went to NCAAs, it was me and David representing the distance squad at the Valley, and I cheered for him in the prelims and the semifinals, and he cheered for me in the finals. So, yeah, I think that's part of the beauty of going to a mid-major college and a conference. Like, people just root for each other, even if you're competitors. Whereas I think sometimes at the big schools, you lose sight of that, and it's more just pure competition.
Yeah, do you see it? Okay, good, great answer. I'm with you 100%. Dave Timlin, we were trying to bring back to Grand Blue Mile.
Yep.
So we're hopeful we can host him at the relays in the future. Terrific athlete with Valley ties. Always the type of athlete we want to bring to Drake. But now back to serious business. Do you see the question now?
Yes. I'm well known for my fear of Canadian geese. I was attacked by one when I was like 5 years old and holding an ice cream cone, and it like pecked me right in the face. I've always been kind of scarred by them. They're not my favorite. I think they're just kind of mean animals in general, but I'm slowly getting less and less afraid of them as I become more confident in myself. So I'm turning it around.
This is the danger of making yourself available in social media. Friends know it's coming.
People find out your deepest fears.
They're going to throw stupid stuff out here. But I've seen some really good questions. So there was actually, I'm going to go back in this. There was, what kind of mileage here's a 2-part question from 2 different fans here. What kind of mileage did you run in college? And then also, what are the differences between running in high school and running in college? Those are 2 different questions, but I'm putting them into one.
That's fine. So high school, I was mostly running, the mile, 2 mile kind of thing. So most of my mileage was probably no more than 40 to 45 miles a week at my peak. So not a ton, not a mileage hog by any means when I was in high school. And back then I was just doing it much more for the fun of it. It wasn't a huge stressor for me. I wasn't competing for state titles. I was just enjoying the time with my friend, and it was something that I was, getting better at. So it was easy to keep going. And then college-wise, I think the most I got up to in my 4 years at Drake was 95, but that was a huge, steady increase between, coming in at 45 as a freshman, building up to that by the tail end of my senior year. And college-wise, all of a sudden there's scholarship implications, and, you're competing for points at conference meets, which you're doing in high school as well. But I feel like the pressure then becomes more important when there's, post-collegiate implication, and you can qualify for NCAAs and really put your school on the map. So I think every level you move up, there's a certain level of pressure increase, but I think that pressure, you're more well-equipped to handle it each level you move up to. So it's kind of a natural progression, and, you start to either take it more seriously or realize that running's a part of your life and not your whole life. And, you focus on a bit of the college life and the running life, or you go kind of all in on running. And so I think that's the biggest difference is, for me, I started really committing to running in college, whereas in high school, it was a piece of the many things I was involved with.
Right. So I got to say, if you're just joining us, we're here with the 3-time defending champion or 3-time reigning champion. Either of those, the descriptions are appropriate. The men's 5,000, Reed Fisher. We started this call and this session together a few minutes after 8, now 8:25. So in that time, Reed, I'm happy to point out that you could have run at least a 5K. Maybe we're all.
I would hope so, yeah.
Yeah. I think if we keep going here another minute or two, another question or two,
cool.
We will have time to complete a whole 10K.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly lots of fans, lots of great interaction. I do see this question, and you touched on it earlier. This is a really good question, and I think something that I could use to hear, and we could all use to hear. How do you stay motivated to get out the door and run every day during these troubling times?
Yeah, so it's cool. We set up a program through Tim Manawheat. We call it Connect with Tim Manawheat, and it's basically an opportunity for high school and college runners, or really anybody involved in sport, to set up like a Zoom call with our team, or at least a member of the team, and just kind of have a video conference. So, initially we were setting that up as a way to keep others motivated, but that's been a huge source of motivation for me, just getting to talk to a bunch of young athletes who are like you said earlier, kind of struggling with this loss of a season and competition, and just getting to encourage them has been really kind of cathartic for me, and I've been able to encourage myself in the process, which has been cool. So basically what I've been trying to reinforce in myself and in others is like, everybody started running because they just loved it. Nobody did it because they were trying to win a conference title or trying to get a full ride to college or trying to get a contract out of college. Like, everybody did it because it was something they just enjoyed for the fun of it. So that's been what I've trying to kind of reconnect with my roots on. I've been doing some trail running and just some different routes here in town and running with audiobooks and things like that, just to keep it lighthearted and remind myself that it's probably the only time for the rest of my career where I won't be at least a little bit stressed about a race on the horizon line. Right now, I'm just training to train and enjoying it.
Well, there's a natural follow-up question to that, what you just said. Not pinned. We'll get to the one that's pinned.
Oh, not the one pinned. I was going to say, that's an interesting.
I don't know if you know that person, but that's an amazingly absurd question that I can't ask you. But the natural one that is there from Neil _0202, he says, if there's no, or he or she, I'm sorry, I don't know you, Neil. If there's no spring season, how should myself and my team get ready for cross country? So I'm going to guess that that's a high school student athlete that's really already thinking about the fall. Any advice for that type of athlete based on what you just gave?
Yeah. I think I've seen in my own career that running is like the sum of 1,000 plus small actions rather than a handful of really big ones. So, what you're doing right now is going to have a huge impact on your fitness level in the fall and your mental kind of preparedness for the fall as well. So, I didn't become a really good runner overnight. It took a decade to get to where I'm at now. And this next 6 months are going to be a huge impact on your career this coming year, but also potentially your career for 8 years down the line from now. So I think the big thing is to remember that just because there isn't a race on the horizon or there's not this huge reason for you to be fit and prepared doesn't mean that you shouldn't be at least training and feeling good about running and enjoying your workouts. So I think the big thing, like I said, is this is a great time to kind of bank fitness and listen to your body. Like, you don't have to maybe push through some injuries or some things that are nagging you. You can take the little step back and really enjoy the training and, still be training and becoming fit, but not having that immediacy that a lot of us are used to.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think the interesting thing is your point is, and then one of my takeaways for that is it's a time where you can really progress your training, but you don't have to feel like you need to take risks and you build those relationships, hopefully doing it safe and social distancing, but still finding the opportunity to enjoy some training with your teammates. So Reed, by now you would have, if you were on the Blue Oval, whether it's Swiss Championship or the Drake Relays, you would have completed a 10K. And I know you've run PR and you've won races and you finished fourth in the U.S. on the Blue Oval and Drake. I know the questions keep coming in. One that we need to address very quickly here, and then I'll unpin it. How many pairs of Yeezys do you have?
Zero. Not a Yeezy guy, unfortunately.
One disappointed follower.
Yeah,
right?
Sorry, Lars.
So you had a couple more. Man, these questions are really sharp and really good. Here's one, and maybe I'll plan on just leaving at this one, and then and also to all of Reed's followers, all of the people who love him, and those that love the Drake Relays, thank you for joining us tonight. I've got to tell you, though, I promised Reed I wouldn't make him be on this for more than 15 minutes. So for you, not for me. He loves you all, and so he really appreciate the interaction and all the questions. It's really a tremendous conversation. So I'll say this is Reed, and if you're all right with it, I'm going to make this our final question from our fans tonight.
Sure.
But really appreciate all the great questions. What was your race plan and goal going into the marathon trials? And what I might add for those of you who don't know the specifics or just joining us here, again, we're talking with Reed Fisher, the 3-time reigning champion of the Drake Relays 5000. He qualified for the Olympic trials with a blazing fast half marathon, 101.30. Was that your best? What's your time?
37.
101.29?
101.37. Yeah.
I don't have any notes here. I'm doing all this off
No worries.
101.37, a tremendous half marathon time that qualified for the trials, but it was his marathon debut. So that happened on Saturday, February 29th. Really the last big event that we were able to host here in the U.S. The Atlanta Track Club did a great job. So now with that context set, as a blazing fast half marathon, 101.37, and your marathon debut, what was your race plan and goal going into the marathon trials?
Yeah. First, let me say, if anybody does have questions after we get off, feel free to shoot me a DM. I'll try and get back to you as quick as possible. So if people's questions get missed, hit me up. No worries. And yeah, I think as far as the trials go, I was in, for sure, the shape of my life. I mean, coming off of Houston was a huge mental and physical boost. Like, being able to run that fast of a half marathon was a massive boost of confidence for me. So going into it,
right, well,
Coach and I thought I could probably run 2:08:30 to 2:09 on a flat course. So in Atlanta, that would translate to probably about 2:10:30 to 2:11 if we had a perfect day. So that was kind of the time goal going in, but obviously we didn't know what that was going to mean or where it would translate to as far as placing. So
Reed, hold on.
went in trying to make the Olympic team.
Let me add
What's
this.
that?
Let me add this. You're being a little bit modest. That day you ran 101.37. You were within strides of Jared Ward, who had just sixth at the Olympics, the last go round. Jared Ward is a friend of mine. I admire him, really follow him.
Yeah, Jared, great.
He's finished in the top 10 twice at Boston, twice at New York. An incredible marathoner. And your race leading into the Olympic trials, you were within just a couple steps of Jared Ward, who is sixth in the Olympics. So you left out that detail in part.
Sure.
You truly were ready to take that next step. So I wanted to add that concept here. Now, go ahead. Where were you at in your mindset?
Yeah, so like you said, was feeling on top of the world and was really thinking I had an outside shot to make that team and knew it was going to take a special day, but it takes a special day for everybody who makes an Olympic team. So went in feeling really like clear-minded and just ready. But yeah, I ended up falling twice in the first 10K and busted my hip up pretty bad and ended up limping the last 20 miles. So didn't quite pan out the way I wanted it to, but sometimes that's life. And, I think that was a huge learning lesson for me. Obviously not the time or place I would have liked it to happen, but, I think having ran so many 10K to half marathon kind of races, I was just so mentally focused when that gun went off and was prepared for a move to be made in the first 5 to 10K, and then nothing happened. So I think I got a little antsy and just lost some of that composure that you need to have in the marathon to be successful, and ended up on the pavement twice as a result. So, that was, again, not the time that I wanted it to happen, but I think that's a huge thing that I can take forward with me as I'm just starting out on my marathon career, and hopefully sometime in the next 4 years, I'll have that perfect day, and, maybe I'll be an Olympian 4 years from now. That would be pretty incredible.
It would be. And truly, I was excited to see that result, not just for Jared Ward, who I consider a friend, you, who I consider a friend, Brogan Austin, another guy I consider a friend, who's he was the reigning U.S. champion. I thought to myself, man, at least one, maybe two of these three dudes is making it. And very disappointed it didn't happen for any of you. Certainly happy for Jake Riley and Abdi, Galen. I mean, it's wonderful that we're a great team. Terrific. But I was very hopeful. And so we can stay on another minute or two. Then I've got to let Reed go. He's in training. He's got a lot going on. He's being reckless of his time. And I promised that this deal that I wouldn't keep him more than 15 minutes. It's now been 35 minutes. So I was thinking maybe we would do about a 5K worth, and it turned into a 10K worth. I can promise Reed it will not be a marathon. We will not be on hours. But what I'll say is I'm seeing all these questions, and I see Bryant. I don't know how to pronounce your name there, username, but I just got on, leaving already. What I can say, just having seen your career from you're on to where you are now, what makes so many people, a huge passionate fan, like we're seeing here, this is incredible engagement, is that not only did you start as a walk-on in high school, like you said, not even chasing state championships, to then in college, really having a breakthrough, but never contending for a national championship. Ninth in the NCAA is really great. But then now you've been top 4 in the U.S., you've had these huge breakthroughs, and along the way, you've stayed humble, but you've also shared that progression and shared that journey. So and you're open with your fans. Your comment here a moment ago about how, hey, anybody who has questions, just shoot them to me. I'll answer them. I mean, that is incredible. So Reed, thanks for what you do in the sport. Thanks for what you do for the Drake Relays. Thank you what you do for Drake Track and Field. You're an incredible ambassador for the Bulldogs. I know, you've had a chance to come back and do some Zoom calls with the guys and girls in the distance squad at Drake. I know Coach Colacius was really appreciative, and I know the team was really appreciative. So when you think about, you've shared your favorite memories from the U.S. Championships, your favorite memories from the Drake Relays, you've shared advice for athletes at all levels. What are something else that you would want to share? Is there anything else that you feel compelled maybe going on? I know you mentioned some things you're doing with Tin Man. Anything else that you want your fans to know?
Man, well, thanks for all the kind words. That's very nice of you. I'll take all of them to heart for sure. No, I don't know. I mean, I think we hit a lot of stuff, but more than anything, like, thanks to you for having me. I know being able to have this platform and use it in a way that, makes everything else worthwhile, that's really special to me. And if I can leave the sport a little bit better than I found it, or inspire like one kid to follow in my footsteps, then that makes everything worthwhile to me. So thanks to you. And yeah, thanks for the Drake Relays for not only being a huge asset to the Iowa running community and myself, but it's a special event for people worldwide. And I know a lot of people bookmark this weekend on their calendars and look forward to it every year. So a lot of blood, sweat, and tears on your end, and Carolyn and everyone else who's been involved in it over the past 100 and however many years we've been going and been lucky to do this thing. So thanks to all of you. And if anybody gets a chance, Drake Relays is the place to be in late April.
Yeah, and actually, you know what? I want you to. That's amazing. I'm gonna do a little sponsor read to thank our friends at Atlantic Bottling. So you talked about how the Drake Relay started. We started in